Hey everybody, welcome back to Discover Springford. I'm standing in front of Calhoun Jewelers, located at the corner of 5th and Main in Royersford Borough. Today I'm sitting down with the owner, Cathy Calhoun. I'm Geoffrey Desiato, a professional actor, part-time realtor, and transplant to the Springford area. And I'm on a mission to find the best that Springford has to offer. I'll be interviewing local business owners, civil servants, and other prominent members of the community to find out what makes Springford a great place to live, work, eat, and explore. I invite you to join me on my journey as I discover Springford. Cathy, thanks for letting me come in today on your day off. I appreciate it.
Thank you. I'm happy to have you.
All right. So as we do on all of our episodes, we like to hear a little bit about the personal story or the origin story behind the business owner. So I'll pass it over to you, and you can tell me as much as you feel.
Or as little.
Or as little. That's what the editing tools are for.
Okay.
But yeah, I love just hear, where you, young little Cathy, grew up and how you ended up all the way here. I'd love to hear the whole story.
In the jewelry business, I guess, or in Royersford. Well, I grew up in downtown Pottstown and went to Pottstown High School. And my first job started out as a banker at a place called Continental Bank.
Okay.
Not because I always dreamed of being a banker, but that's what was available. And I started out as a bank teller in Spring City, Pennsylvania, right over the bridge. Now, the odd thing about it is many years, I was in banking for 10 years, and then many years later, I went back and purchased the bank building. That was my first, where I had my first job there as a teller. I purchased it to make it into my home.
That's so cool.
And that's where I live right now.
Yeah.
So I started really as a banker, and then that's how I got to this area, Spring City, and then we opened up a new branch for Continental Bank in Royersford, which is now Gibbons Fast Tags.
Oh, okay.
Right, so I was there
right
for many years.
Yeah.
So that's how I got friendly and fell in love with Royersford. I used to eat at the Spot restaurant down the street, which is right next to where Main Street Cafe is.
Oh, okay.
And every day I'd be there and I'd meet all the other business owners. We'd all gather for lunch and realize that Royersford is such a great community.
For sure.
Friendly, everybody sticks together, helps each other out. So while I was about at my 10th year as a banker, I was dating a guy who had a jewelry store in Pottstown. And on Thanksgiving, he had a heart attack.
Oh, man.
And a severe heart attack. He was only in his 30s.
Wow.
And then said to me, you have to come and run my store for Christmas. And I didn't know a thing about the jewelry business at all. But, I wanted to help him out. So I took a leave of absence. The bank allowed me to do that. Take the time that you need, and then you could come back.
Wow.
So I took 3 months off. But I have to tell you, I went in his store. I had no idea anything about jewelry. My first night there, it was a Friday night, and a couple came in to buy an engagement ring, and so I thought, well, how hard can this be? Can't be hard. Right. So they came in. I'm showing them diamond engagement rings, and I pull out one ring, and they liked it, and they said, "Can we see the other one?" So I pull out the other ring. Now both the diamonds are the same size. And the guy says to me, "Well, they look exactly the same. They're the same size. Why is one $1,000 more than the other?" Whoa! So I look at it. I look at the tag. I'm like, "Well, geez, I don't know. He must have the wrong tag. So take whichever one you want at the lower price." So of course they take the more expensive one at the price of the lower one, because I don't know that there's like color, clarity, cut, everything about a diamond. It looked the same. What did I know? So that night, so they leave. So they take, the more expensive diamond at the cheaper price, because I think, my partner has marked them wrong. So now, as I'm going through the case before I go to the hospital to see him, I look and they're all marked wrong, and I'm like, oh my God, he has like screwed up all these prices. So I took my time and I remarked everything, made all the half-carat diamonds the same size, all the carat diamonds the same size, so that when people came in, not even knowing that like one diamond is better than the other, I just put everything the same price. I go to the hospital that night and I said, "Oh, by the way, thank God you got me in there, because I'm a banker and I know numbers. I'm trying to be a big shot and I know numbers." So I made sure that everything is marked the same price, so people aren't confused. grabbed his chest.
Oh, gosh.
Oh my God, the big one. What? You're so crazy. Because I didn't know.
Oh my gosh.
So then, of course, he got furious. And that weekend, then when I started to quickly read about it, I thought, oh my, I have no idea what I'm doing. So I quickly enrolled in Gemological Institute, tried to get all the training I could to just quickly learn about jewelry and get me through.
Yeah, for the rest of the time.
But then, he continued to struggle, with his health issues. But then he did get better. But in that amount of time, I went to Gemological Institute of America and became a gemologist and fell in love with the jewelry business.
Yeah.
So that's how I got in the jewelry business.
That's incredible.
I never went back to banking.
No,
Only to my house where eventually, I moved into.
That's incredible. It's funny because I would imagine that a lot of people would have seen that first day as like, well, not cut out for this, so I'll stick where I am. But you actually saw it as a challenge, and you started to I need to know everything I can.
Well,
some people, it's like that fight or flight. I guess you chose fight.
And I hate to feel stupid.
Yeah.
That feeling of feel stupid. So I'm like, oh God, I better figure out what I'm talking about before people. And a lot of my banker customers were coming in because they knew what had happened, and they'd come into me. So I had my regular banking customers coming in to buy jewelry.
And you had established trust with them.
Right.
So you would say that I'm in over my head. I'm just going to go back to what I know, which is banking.
I was in over my head, but then I wasn't that crazy. Even though I liked my banking job, I felt I wasn't going anywhere fast enough. Mm-hmm. And I found the jewelry business fascinating. And then I didn't want to feel stupid, so that's why I decided to get education. I knew I was going to have to be there a couple months, and I wanted to sound at least not so dumb.
Yeah, you didn't want to just fake it till you,
I did that.
In the jewelry business,
I
can imagine.
I sincerely gave that couple a really good deal.
Yeah. Yeah, so whoever you are out there, just know that you got
really
a
good
ring
deal.
that was at the time was $1,000 less than it should have been. So imagine how much those dollars are now. Because you've been in the business for a number of years, I would imagine. But so tell me a little bit about how did you come? Obviously, everybody's interested in the house, like you had said. How did you come to find out that it was for sale, and even get to the point where you would even consider purchasing something like that and taking on that undertaking?
That's a good question, and I'll tell you how that happened. Because of me being in the jewelry business, I never went back to the banking business because I fell in love with it.
Yeah.
I mean, absolutely fell in love with the jewelry industry. Stayed in it, became partners with, my boyfriend at the time.
Yeah.
And my old boss at the bank, who I remain very good friends with, he came in one day to the jewelry store and he said, I think the old bank where you used to work, they're going to close it. I think it would make a great jewelry store. You should go look at it and turn it into a jewelry store. I said, what? And he said, well, it has the big vault.
Yeah.
It has the big vault. It has all the safe deposit boxes. He's thinking you can store the jewelry there at night. So he threw me the keys. So, I mean, I didn't think anything of it, but I took the keys and I went down that weekend. It was empty. So I went down and spent some time in there. And it was a mess, right? Sure. Old. It was built in 1872. Smelled old, needed a lot of work. But when I was in there, I did a sketch of what I thought it could look like. I knew it wouldn't make a good jewelry store because there wasn't enough traffic.
Right.
The town didn't lend itself to a big jewelry store there.
Yeah.
And I said, but it might be a cool house. I could take those ceilings out. I looked upstairs, the ceilings were high. I could do something. I could be crazy and do something cool with this. I even drew like a piano is going to go here. I didn't even own a piano. Had no money for a piano. So when I went back to him, I said, I don't want it for a jewelry store, but I might live in there. And he says, well, you're crazy. He said, well, you can put an offer in, which I did.
Oh, my goodness.
And it was sort of like a closed offer. And then they called me, because I had worked at that bank, and they called and they said, well, you have it. You can have it. So at first I'm excited, but then the realization came when I came down there, and it was overwhelming to take on that task. And then I thought, oh, I made a huge mistake. But there was no turning back.
Right.
So that's how I ended up making it into a house, and I just did it one step at a time. As I got money is how I would, do one room at a time. And I'd open up so many safe deposit boxes at a time. if I'd finish one room, maybe if the living room would be completed, I'd allow myself to go through 50 safe deposit boxes because they left all of those.
Yeah, that's something.
It's so crazy.
I don't
right?
know how that's something I find interesting. Like, did the bank close entirely? Whatever it was, Continental.
They
so they
closed.
don't. That bank doesn't exist, or it didn't get purchased, or
Well,
anything
it
like.
did get purchased
Okay.
by another bank called Mid-Atlantic.
Oh, okay.
And then Mid-Atlantic got bought
Yeah,
out by PNC, and then PNC. And all this happened within 1 year
Oh, wow.
of like all these banks. Just they were
And there was
merging and being bought out.
There was no, or was there a process in terms of the safe deposit boxes?
They had, I had found out that they had sent, for years, they sent letters out for people to come
Claim
back and
whatever's in
claim
there,
whatever
yeah.
there is, and and they tried to get open what they could.
So part of the sale of the bank included the
All the
contents of the
contents.
That's incredible.
Contents, yeah. All the contents,
That's
which I still have 222 boxes to get drilled open.
Oh my gosh, it's
Yeah.
like a Christmas gift every year. Maybe.
Most are empty.
Yeah.
But I did find a lot of memorabilia in there that pertain, because this bank used to print their own paper money after
wow.
the Civil War. So I found bills that were actually printed in the National Bank of Spring City, and I have them on the wall. And there's old coins. It's just it's the coolest thing.
That's so awesome.
It is. It is.
Yeah, I find it interesting too because I see parallels in the story of you getting into jewelry and then taking on this home. Had you ever had a home built for yourself or anything before that, or
No.
we've renovated a home?
No, never. I
yes.
lived in an apartment that I loved.
Yeah.
I loved to death. It was an old farmhouse, and no, I lived in that apartment
Yeah.
for 20 years.
That's incredible. So just very similar, like where you just kind of you went in with both feet and learned on the go. Well, as you did with gemology, is that how you said?
Gemology, yeah.
So as the same, it seems to be kind of part of your DNA a little bit. It's like you
unfortunately.
you jump.
Yeah, I make a
You
mistake,
jump
and then I
and
have
then
to
you
try
look,
and write
and then,
it.
yeah, right. And then you, with everything you have, you find out how to make it work,
Yeah,
which is
yeah.
that's a great
Or
trait
fail,
to have.
or fail.
Yeah, which is fine because I think a lot of people they fear failure so much that they never leap.
Right.
So I think that's a cool part about hearing stories of the people that have taken an idea and actually brought it to life. The more people hear about that, I think it inspires people who have been kicking the can down the road and saying, someday.
And even my whole family, from my mother to my brother, when they heard that I bought the bank and I'm going to live in it, they're like, "Oh, she's crazy. She has lost her mind. She is off her rocker. She's totally crazy."
That's funny.
Yeah, and but now they love it.
Yeah. That's
know.
great. Yeah, I can imagine. It's like,
And
where
I
else
get a lot
can you
of
go?
publicity. I got a lot of publicity from that. There's been a lot of television shows and that they've wanted to come and do the story on it.
Yeah, and I know there's one that is, I think, still available to be watched for people if you have Netflix. I believe it's on there.
Yeah.
Which is
Netflix.
just a short feature. There are other ones, but I don't know how readily available they are for people to go back and watch.
No. If you Google "I live in a bank,"
Yeah.
it brings everything up.
Oh,
it
great.
brings
There
the
you go.
CNN Money Show. It brings If Walls Could Talk. It brings up "You Live in What."
Oh, that's great.
Travel Channel. So if you just Google
Yeah, so
"I
what
live
I'll
in
do
a
is
bank,"
I'll try to do some of that work for the viewers so that I can link those below the video, so people will just be able to click out to them because I'm sure it's just I would love to at some point see it in person, but I'm not presuming to invite myself over to your house.
You're invited.
Yeah, thank you.
When you're across the street at Chaplin's Music Cafe,
Yes.
just think you could bring a whole crew over.
Yeah, that would be really cool. So, but yeah, I encourage everybody. You got to check it out. It's unbelievable. So, but anyway, so around what year was it that you didn't have the jewelry store in Royersford yet?
No, I was
yeah.
still in Pottstown, and then there was a jewelry store in Royersford called Zanker Jewelers, and it was an older couple, and they were retiring.
Okay.
And Mr. Zanker actually called me and said, "I want to sell you my jewelry store." And
wow.
he said, "And I want to sell it to you because you were in Royersford. Everyone here knows you. It's a win-win for you.
Right.
You'll come in, and everybody already knows you ahead of time." So I took him up on that, and it was located 2 blocks down the street when I first started, and maintained that for 5 years. But the business went so well. I mean, just every year doubling. I knew I needed a bigger location, and I outgrew where I was. So one of the days when I was just at lunch, I was sitting at the traffic light right out here at 5th and Main, and I knew I had to go somewhere because I needed more room. And I looked over, and here was this bank, but it was a working bank.
Oh, okay.
And it was a Patriot Bank. And then I thought, wait a minute, Patriot also has a bank right on Lewis Road. Why do they need 2 banks? So I got back to the store and I called the president of Patriot Bank. And I said, this is Cathy Calhoun. I want to buy your bank building on 5th and Main in Royersford because I need to expand my jewelry store and you don't need 2 banks. And he said, well, but it's not for sale. I said, no, but you don't need need 2 banks. You have to sell it to me in order for me to expand and to have a better business. I need that corner. I need my own parking lot because I was having trouble. My customers having trouble parking. This came with a parking lot. And he says, but we don't even own the parking. We don't even own the property anymore. It's owned by a developer. I said, get me together. I want to meet the developer. And he says, he'll never sell that to you. I said, please, just make the introduction, which they did. I said, what's the worst it could be? You'll get a free lunch. So I'll never forget. He calls the person that was the developer that owned their bank buildings and had lunch, and I gave my spiel to the developer. You have to sell me that bank branch. You have to sell it. Why would I sell it? He said, I don't want to sell it. I just bought it. I don't want to sell it. And finally I said to him, I'll throw in a big diamond ring on the deal. And he leaned in and he said, how big? I'm like, I got him. So anyhow, that's how that came about. And then I came in, I found a different location for the employees that were here. I moved them to another location and rented a place in Pottstown.
Oh my goodness.
So that they could have their offices in Pottstown. And so that's how I got this bank.
That's crazy.
Is that crazy?
Yeah, I mean, your gumption is so impressive to me.
That was like a panic situation. Okay. I knew I needed parking.
You had to strike when the iron was hot. Yeah, and the fact that if you're in that in between stage of like, is my business stalling because I'm not able to expand?
Right.
Like,
do I have to
window.
leave?
Yeah,
and I didn't want to leave. I wanted to stay here.
Yeah.
And to this day, the man that owned this bank, he and I are still best friends.
Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah. We didn't know each other before, but we're best friends.
Oh, that's
awesome.
awesome.
Just had dinner with him Saturday night.
Oh, how about that?
Funny?
Yeah, that is crazy. Like the connections that you make. Everybody's on their individual journeys, but some journeys align, and then you're lifelong
right
friends.
Time and right place. Isn't it the truth?
That's really cool.
Yeah.
So I'm fascinated just to hear a little bit, if you don't mind, about the history of your gem search, your gem hunting, as you said, and things like that, because you had mentioned that as I came in, and then you also had mentioned that you had been involved with the Antiques Roadshow. I think that's kind of cool, because I think a lot of people are familiar with that. So if you don't mind sharing a little bit about your journey as you started to get licensed and get all your certificates and everything, where it took you beyond just having your own business, but then the exploratory nature that you took on with that. So.
I started to be interested in the history of the jewelry and the journey of diamond and gemstones, how they came out of the earth, and then appear faceted in beautiful pieces of jewelry. So I got interested, especially in the antique jewelry, because of the provenance and the history that brings, which, funny you should ask, I brought a couple pieces, if I can show.
Sure.
Just on what I do and how and what jewelry is supposed to mean. I mean, there's a lot of hidden meaning behind it, along with sentimental meanings.
Yeah, for sure.
This is a great example of this gold piece. It looks like a sphere, a globe, correct?
Yeah.
This was made. It's all gold. It was made. Around during World War II, when Hitler was in reign, and people could not wear Christian crosses. If they could wear a swastika, but any other
like religious symbols,
symbols that you couldn't do it, and especially the Jewish families. So someone a clever jeweler. Wait till you see this. Has hidden a Masonic cross with all the Masonic symbols.
Wow.
Inside. Is that
That's
fascinating? That they wanted to wear their belief so much. Look at the workmanship.
That's incredible. It's a perfect sphere.
Perfect sphere, and it'll snap into
snaps into there.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
So isn't that
Yeah.
fantastic?
Maybe I'll try to get a close-up shot of this when we're done the interview so that people can see it as it works, because right now it's probably impossible for you to see from far away, but
Right.
this is unbelievable. And it's got some
Weight.
density to it, yeah.
And also that came out of the same family was another sphere. And this one here, which has birthstones set on the outside, and it just looks like a gold, maybe world or globe.
It's like an ornament or something.
Right.
Yeah.
Now what they did, and this is what the Jewish families had to do, they hid photographs of their family members would have been hidden inside.
Oh my goodness.
Because they couldn't, that's why most photographs from the Holocaust never survived. They had to burn them because they did not want to out their family members.
Right.
So look at what they painstakingly went through to save
This is incredible.
photographs.
This is like those glasses, like those Ben Franklin glasses that have like the multiple lenses on them, the way that they all fit together. This is
But just
unbelievable.
think, they were photographs of their real family members.
And they held them close to their heart.
Held them close.
Yeah.
Yep.
Wow. And then all the
Is that
birthstones,
great?
that's amazing.
Isn't that great?
That's crazy.
So there's 8 birthstones, and there would have been 8 photographs inside.
Yeah, double-sided.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Oh my goodness. So how did you come in contact with this again?
Well, through a lot of it happened when I was on the PBS Antique Roadshow beginning in the year 2000. I think 2000, 2001, 2002. I traveled around, did a lot on that show, and from there I made a lot of connections from all over, and a lot of people in the jewelry industry that maybe did not want estate jewelry or antique jewelry, or a lot of people just remembered seeing me.
Yeah.
And I got a lot of publicity from doing that. So, which is how I get a lot of my pieces still to this day.
Yeah.
They'll say, I saw you on the road show, or they reran the road show.
Wow.
And so that really helped me out with acquiring pieces.
Yeah, and then now obviously you just Google Cathy Calhoun. I'm sure all your various features of your show and your your jewelry store, your home,
yeah,
that's
it's
pretty
good.
good publicity. I'm
it's
not sure
good
if you
PR.
knew it at the time when you did the
had
Antiques Roadshow that it would blow up the way that it did.
No, I had no idea. And in fact, one of the shows on the roadshow, a couple came to me and they had a pair of earrings, and they had a little note on the earrings. And prior to this roadshow that I was at in Sacramento, prior to flying out there, I was just in Atlantic City, and I went to see the first exhibit of the Titanic.
Oh, wow.
And at the end, I was reading about a man named Dickinson Bishop, who dressed as a woman to get on the lifeboats.
Oh yeah, I think I've heard that.
Yeah, I mean, and in the Titanic movie, they portray this man as grabbing a baby and jumping on, if you remember, in the latest Titanic movie. So I was reading all about this man, thinking what a cad he was, to do that. Well, he lived. Well, now 5 days later in Sacramento, I'm doing the Antique Roadshow, and standing in front of me is a young couple, and he has a pair of earrings. And there's a little note in there that from his great-great-grandfather that stated, I gave these to my bride as a wedding gift, and they were purchased in Zaire. And they were mummified beetles set in earrings. They didn't look like much, kind of dead, mummified beetles. And the young guy says to me, you probably won't know who this is, but my great-great-grandfather, he was the person that dressed as a woman to get on the lifeboats. I said to him, Dickinson Bishop.
Oh my goodness.
And he's like, oh my God, you're so smart. How did you know that? Well, I only knew it because I was just at the time. I just read about him at the museum. So as I investigated this, it was true.
Wow.
These earrings he had bought for his bride, the whole history behind this is he had owned a stove company in Michigan, and he met the bride who, years later, her family was the Walton family that started Walmart.
Oh, wow.
And they were very wealthy, and they were on a 3-month honeymoon of Egypt and Zaire, and they were going to come back to the U.S. on the maiden voyage of the Titanic. That's part of their honeymoon.
Wow.
And those two did survive. The wife was the very first person that stepped foot in the very first lifeboat wearing these earrings. And then he was the man that went back and got her coat and a muff and her hat and got onto that lifeboat, and they were saved. They were on the very first lifeboat,
gosh.
and she was wearing the earrings. But the story is that she had gone to a fortune teller when they purchased the earrings, and the fortune teller said, you're going to survive a shipwreck, you're going to survive an earthquake, but a motor accident is going to end your life. She survived of course, the Titanic. There were witnesses that she's telling the story as they're rowing away, saying, we're going to live because the fortune teller said, I'm going to survive. And she's wearing the earrings. They're in San Francisco in the earthquake, and he has a newspaper where they're on the front of the newspaper where the hotel behind them is crumbled. And the headlines are Titanic survivors survive.
Oh my gosh.
Here they are again, and she's wearing the earrings.
Oh wow.
2 years after that, she's in Dowagiac, Michigan. Her car goes out of control, and she's killed.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, so now here's the earrings.
Oh my gosh.
What kind of price do you put on those earrings now? Yeah, they're priceless.
Yeah, the
so that
story
sort
makes
of got
it-
the story.
Yeah.
It's, again, and just like with sentimental jewelry, it is about the story.
Right.
So that's how I felt. That's how I got the passion for it and fell in love with everything.
That's so much more than just, I got you some earrings, honey. There's so much more. There's got to be a meaning to it. And that's why, a lot of people, I've noticed, my grandmother passed away a couple years ago, and my great aunt, they were from Italy. They came over here in the 60s. They had all this furniture and all this very nice, and they would tell us how much value, this furniture is worth this much money, blah, 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 blah. When they did the estate sale, it turned out that the furniture wasn't worth that much, but it was because of what they...
And their connection
their
to
story,
it.
The stories they told around it and all that stuff,
Right.
that increased the value exponentially in their own minds, which I guess it's all in the eye of the beholder anyway. So I find that really interesting because, we have those family heirlooms that we hold on to, and maybe, the ring I wear as my wedding ring right now, because my fingers have shrunk since I got married, is a ring I bought in Mexico for like $20.
But it means something.
But it means something to me, because my
Right.
wedding ring is, I got a titanium wedding ring, and I didn't think that I thought I would get fatter when I got married, not thinner. So,
Well, you're an actor now. You have to look good.
I'm trying to lose
look
weight
good.
a little bit. A lot of people watching are probably like, "That's you as after losing weight." Oh, okay. But so I can't get it recut because it's titanium and stuff. So I keep that in a box, but then I just wear this to ward off all the ladies that. I'm just kidding.
I'm sure there's a lot.
But it has a G on it. So when I bought it, that's why I bought the ring, is that because my name's Jeff with a G. So I bought it, and then it ended up being the exact size. It used to be a pinky ring when I first got it because my fingers were fatter, but now it's my wedding. But so
right there,
it's
is
important
a story.
to me. Exactly.
There is a story.
So, and if I lose this, even though it's technically not the wedding band that I used on my wedding day, I would be
very
devastated.
upset.
Yeah.
Very upset because the story.
The story, yeah.
And the meaning behind it.
So the storytelling aspect of jewelry
Very
is what
important.
really ties you in.
And I have to tell you, it's very important to women. Very important to women. And recently I just waited on, I had a customer at Christmas time, and his mother had passed away, and he had held this ring for a long time, didn't do anything with it. We redid the center diamond for his wife into a ring. But there were 2 diamonds on the side. I said, let's put them in little earrings for your daughter. He said, that's a great idea. He had a little daughter. When he came in at Christmas, we opened the box, showed him the wife's ring. He was thrilled. I opened up the earring box. He sobbed.
Oh, wow.
Because they were for his daughter, and they were his mother's.
Wow.
He sobbed.
Wow.
He really did. It was unbelievable.
That's incredible.
Yeah. And just look at the meaning that means to him.
Yeah. That's a great story.
Because he can now look at something that his mother's eyes looked at.
Yeah.
Isn't that great?
That's so beautiful.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing that and for sharing all these things. I think
You're welcome.
It makes me reevaluate and think about it in a whole new light, and I'm sure it does the same for people because, I've never considered myself someone who really cared that much about jewelry, but I never really thought of it in the context as you're describing it.
Yeah, you have to.
And now that I do, I'm like, oh wow, I have to really reevaluate a lot of this stuff.
Right.
And I'm blessed in the sense is that I have a wife who doesn't really. Jewelry isn't really her thing per se.
But if when your sons were born,
right.
if you would have bought her a piece of jewelry representing,
Oh, for sure.
say earrings
Yeah.
for that son,
Yeah.
say this is, you just had the baby, here's for your son, and it's your son's birthstone. Are you kidding?
Yeah. So that's.
You better rethink.
Yeah, I got to rethink everything.
Yeah. Yeah.
So Thank you so much. I
You're
really
welcome.
appreciate that and
You're
telling me that. But I think it would be a good time to wrap up. Why don't you I usually let people at the end of the episode give the information on how people can get in touch with you.
Okay.
Website, your phone number here, all that kind of stuff. It's like your final opportunity to present the business side of it for people. But thank you so much for telling me the personal side, because that's the thing I find
Yeah.
so fascinating.
You're welcome.
And I look forward to being able to talk further with you once I turn off the camera. But.
Yeah. Well, and I can be reached at Calhoun Jewelers, and it's 5th and Main Street in Royersford, right on the corner.
Can't
I
miss
have
it.
can't miss it. My website, www.calhounjewelers.com. 610-948-8515 is the phone number, and I have plenty of parking.
Yes, for sure.
Which is a really good thing to have.
Yeah.
So you can pull right in the parking lot, no stress about having to find a place to park or
Right.
walk too far.
Right. Yeah. Well, Cathy, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you
I
so
really,
much.
really appreciate it. Thank
Loved
you.
it. Thank
yeah,
you.
Great.
Well, that's all the time we have for today's episode of Discover Springford. I want to thank you for watching, and I especially want to thank Cathy for giving me her time today. If you'd like to know more about Calhoun Jewelers, then you can do that in a number of ways. You can visit them during their normal business hours. They're located at 500 Main Street in Royersford Borough, and you can also visit the links below the video. While you're there, I encourage you to also check out some of the links that feature Cathy's home, which she converted from a bank building into her private residence. The pictures are incredible. If you'd like to support Discover Springford going forward, you can do that in a number of ways. You can subscribe to our YouTube channel by visiting tv.discoverspringford.com. You can like us on Facebook, follow us on Instagram and Twitter. You can also share these videos with your friends and family. Thanks a lot for watching. Come back next week as we highlight more of what's great about the Springford area. But until then, get out there on your own journey to discover what makes the Springford area a great place to live, work, eat, and explore.